And then we were going to do an overview of like the talent at the top of the draft class, assuming that someone moved up, but nobody did. So I feel less eager and excited to talk about that now because I feel like anything I say about the 2025 class too early is going to make me look foolish in August, or in July, excuse me. But I think the prep class is good, is better than 2024. I think there's a diverse group at the top, but you already mentioned this in this episode. No superstars. I don't think that 2025 at the very top of the draft is even going to be as good as 2024 at the top of the draft.
But preface that with Hagen Smith was like he'd probably be a first round pick, and then he comes out in his second game and strikes out like 100 batters.
Yeah.
Right. And so there's going to be
for sure
a handful of guys, a half dozen guys, a dozen guys that took a giant leap over the winter.
Yep.
I mean, think about Paul Skeens. Paul Skeens wasn't he wasn't even a first round mention. He was transferred from Air Force to LSU, and all of a sudden Paul Skeens is
he was like a teens guy coming into that season. I
don't even think he was that high. I think he was a first round talk. But it was Dolander, right? And all of a sudden Skeens was just everywhere.
Yeah, for sure. You're absolutely right. There are guys that are going to pop. But all of that to say, we'll see. I'm really intrigued to see how the Ethan Holliday, we'll save this discussion for another episode, but I am intrigued to see how the Ethan Holliday discussion develops because I don't know. I don't know.
I would bet him versus the field right now.
That's insane. That's an insane thing to say. You would bet one guy versus the field in December before a draft in July is a wild thing to say, almost no matter who that person is.
Hey, well, when I'm right, you're going to be like, dang.
Maybe so. But Ethan Holliday, I think there's some questions about his profile that I think are fair to ask. Namely, Jeremy, like he's not going to be a shortstop. He's going to be a third baseman, which is fine. But he also hasn't really played that well, right? And so, grain of salt, because I think the summer before his senior year, Jackson Holliday didn't necessarily play very well, and then just suddenly took this giant step forward and was like, oh my God, this guy's like potentially a generational prospect. And maybe Ethan Holliday does the same thing, but he's been running contact rates in summer ball of like 70%, and a little bit of concern from folks around like what the hit tool looks like. And it's certainly a different profile to Jackson, right? It's more like power over hit.
It's more like his father. Looks more like his dad.
100% he does.
Physical.
100.
Like at this point in time, and there's some other prospects. That Florida State pitcher I really like.
Jamie Arnold.
Yeah, I do. Despite he's got a funny first name, but I do think he's right-handed though, right?
He's a lefty.
Oh,
he's a two-pitch lefty.
Yeah.
At the moment.
So I do think that there are some. I mean, there's other guys that could certainly be the first overall pick, but I just think at Holliday, his brother was a number one prospect. His dad, like, you sold a guy short with a dad that was it just. I would be really surprised if it's the Nationals, right?
The Nationals, that's their type too, right? Is like loud, exciting tools, shoot for upside. Who was the guy they took when the Twins got Brooks Lee? Elijah Green. Remember him? Yeah. I remember you and I having a conversation about how intrigued we were about him as a prospect. And
how's his contact rate?
Oof, rough.
His dad was an NFL tight end.
Rough. It's not gone well, Jeremy. Cam Collier, on the other hand, much better.